Throughout history, there have always been rivalries. Some of these rivalries are so great that they still rage on even today. Red versus Blue, Coke versus Pepsi, McDonald's versus Burger King. Apples or oranges? These examples are so synonymous with their competition that you always think about one while also thinking about the other. But for every 90s and 2000s kid, the main rivalry that lashed onto their minds was, of course, Mario versus Sonic. Growing up, I honestly couldn't decide between them. Sonic Adventure 2 and Super Mario Sunshine were two colossal games that I had the privilege of playing. But today, I'm not focused on one side or the other, I'm focused on what falls in between. For every McDonald's and Burger King, there's a Wendy's. And in our case, for every Mario and Sonic, there's a Pac-Man. God damn, do I love me some Pac-Man. When I used to go to arcades, Pac-Man and the missus, of course, were the ones who took most of my quarters. Throughout the years, Pac-Man has stolen the hearts of a countless amount of people. The gameplay was simple and intense, and most of all, addictive. And who could forget his most endearing quote, "Waka waka waka."
He has such a way with words.
But the Pac-Man game I fell in love with wasn't in any arcade. No, much like with my first experiences with Mario and Sonic, it was on the GameCube. Of course, I'm talking about the classic but often forgotten Pac-Man World 2. Leave it to Pac-Man to have one of the best 3D platformers on the GameCube. Isn't that sort of a wild sentence to say? Pac-Man having a 3D platformer? That's a big leap to make if all you know from Pac-Man is this. Namco adapted Pac-Man into the 3D world seamlessly, and while I never played the first Pac-Man world, what's represented here is perfect. The opening cutscene does a great job at setting the stage and showing off how expressive and fun the characters are. The ghosts each have distinct personalities, which always came off from even the very first Pac-Man game. Pinky is the more central of the Ghost Gang, showing some appreciation for more subtle things and having a cute little crush on Pac-Man. Blinky is the more aggressive ringleader, Clyde is a scared klutz, and Inky seems like the most capable but is held back by the group's overall incompetence. The most animated of them all, though, is Pac-Man. He always has a unique expression on his face depending on the situation, but no matter what, he always comes out with a smile.
So you see, that's where the trouble began. That smile. That damn smile.
Even his idle animations are top tier. Look at him juggle that pellet around. Classic. So you got all the original characters from the arcade game, but I noticed that they got some of the names for the ghosts wrong. Like, Clyde is the orange one, right? Everyone knows that because he's the cute dumb one. But it looks like the names for both Clyde and Blinky were switched. I'm not really sure why, like maybe it was just an oversight, but it's interesting nonetheless. Anyway, the story is just as wacky and animated as the characters. Apparently, Pac-Man lives next to some ancient tree that was the battleground against this primeval demon that was defeated by the Pac people's long-lost ancestor, Sir Pac-a-Lot. No, seriously.
You fight with the strength of many men, Sir Knight.
I never knew that I needed Pac-Man lore in my life until now. And all of this story just came from some random book that this guy found. Not like the history of Pac-Land or the Pac Bible, but just this book!
Pac-Man! Pac-Man! According to this book,
Hey yo, what the fuck?
The Ghost Gang stole the golden fruit that was on the tree, and by doing so, they revived the ancient ghost known as Spooky. And now Pac-Man has to get them back, or else Pac-Land will be doomed! The story is silly and straightforward, and is exactly what it needs, since what really drives it forward is the gameplay. The story has me wondering though, are the ghosts like their own race, or are they just what happens to Pac people when they die? Like, they seem to have their own island and their own army. There aren't any graveyards anywhere. Can Pac people even die? Well, obviously, but I'm getting sidetracked here. After that brief opening cutscene, the game just throws you out into the world. Right away, the thing that becomes the most notable is just how well Pac-Man controls. There was hardly a time where it felt like it was the game's fault for me dying, rather it was my fault for messing up or mistiming a difficult jump. Don't let this game's cutesy exterior fool you, there are some challenging sections even in the earliest levels. Thankfully, Pac-Man can grab onto the ledge if you fall a tad short to give you a little more room for error. World 2 also takes a page from other platformers when it comes to his abilities. Most of the enemies that you can find can be butt slammed by double tapping the jump button. This butt slam is is also how you break crates, unlock secrets with switches, and you can travel with it and turn Pac-Man into a bouncy ball. It really reminds me of that one ability from Sonic Adventure 2. Actually, just like Sonic, Pac-Man essentially has a spin dash where he revs up and then rolls into a ball to make longer jumps or defeat bigger enemies. He even has this jump kick move, which if you played him in Smash, you'll recognize it as his up air. That's right, we're delving into some Smash origins now, people. There isn't much in the line of power-ups, but there is the steel ball which makes you invulnerable and lets you walk underwater. Wait a minute, steel ball? Holy crap, is that a JoJo ref? You start each level by choosing them from the overworld map, much like Super Mario Bros. 3 or 3D World. As far as the theme of the levels go, they're all pretty standard when you think of platformers. You got the beginning green levels, tree territory, cold continent, lava land, water world, and then of course, I'm Scared Island. Because that's where the ghosts are from! They're generic, sure, but the actual level design is amazing in this game. They're all so structurally different, even though they have the same theme and aesthetic. I really enjoyed the ice levels with their slippery terrain and tricky jumps, especially the one where you ice skate down the huge mountain. Pac-Man on ice, huh? Now that's something I want to see. As a kid, my favorite levels were the ones in the trees. Going off those blue pads that send you skyrocketing was always so much fun. The levels that gave me the hardest time were the ones that take place in the volcano. You have to be so careful with your timing and jumping, since a lot of the platforms that you stand on either break or disappear into lava entirely. The levels that really took a dive in fun for me were the water levels. All of them are very limiting movement-wise, since you're always moving forward and can only go up and down or side to side. This is a big contrast from all the other levels, which all had a great sense of exploration. However, I started to like them more once I realized that they basically play like Galaga or something similar where you have to dodge or destroy what's coming at you. All of these levels are super replayable too, and there are tons of things to collect like all the dots, fruit, and tokens. So in a way, this game is also a minor collectathon if you think about it. Each level also gives you a high score which you can use to play against other people to see who can get the best. The tokens that I mentioned are used to unlock old school Pac-Man games in the arcade. There's some pretty neat ones here that I've never played before. I really like Pac-Man Mania. It's a little slower paced, but Pac-Man's got hops in this one.
You can fly? No. Jump good.
Fully completing a level is very satisfying, and it's fun fully exploring to get there. Set in between every new area, you have to fight one of the Ghost Gang as a boss. You fight Clyde, or rather Blinky, first, and he fights an dopey looking frog that captures his personality. It's an okay boss fight. It's actually one of the most unique because the other bosses are really just harder reskins of Inky's fight. After defeating every one of the ghosts, you get a golden fruit back from the tree. Every time you get it, it plays this grand music, but then just cuts to black and then the overworld. I was expecting some little victory dance or a celebration from Pac-Man, but it just kind of ends. Nah, leave that goofy shit to Mario. Pac-Man doesn't play that. Although you can tweak out before the cutscene of the fruit plays. This goes on until you get to the last area before you have to fight Spooky. His fight takes place around the tree, and Pac-Man uses the Chaos Emeralds, the golden fruit, to turn into Super Pac-Man.
Yeah!
Or no, it's Golden Pac-Man. Still cool, but my biggest gripe with this final boss is that they don't really do anything with Golden Pac-Man. He plays exactly the same, except he's shiny now. I was able to beat Spooky on my first try, so did Pac-Man really have to go Golden Frieza to stand a chance? I bet he could have taken him in his base form. But after you send Spooky back into the abyss, all of Pac-Land is saved. The town celebrates and praises Pac-Man as their lord and savior, but then the ghosts come back to get one last word in. That is, until they get chased out of town by Pac-Man's dog, street name Chomp Chomp. Pac-Man gives a thumbs up, and then Chomp Chomp brings him a piece of the ghost's deceased flesh as a prize. This is one of those games that I remember took me a while to beat as a kid, but now that I'm older, I wish it was longer. The levels themselves can take a while, but there are only so many of them, 25 to be exact, and that just isn't a lot. It doesn't change that the ones that are here are solid and fun, but it'd be nice to have a bit more. Don't get me wrong, there are a couple levels that freaking blow. I'm looking at you, Butane Pain. But by and large, the levels are all pretty good. I also wanted to bring up the mellow soundtrack. Each level has different music, though they all play off of and contain some elements of the theme song, which also coincidentally sounds like Hello My Baby. Or is it just me?
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal.
They can ramp up the intensity when they need to, but for the most part, they are chill and are a real vibe. They should be on a top 10 lo-fi pack songs to study to video or something. What really works to the benefit of this game is that it's not afraid to show its inspirations on its sleeve. Pac-Man World 2 stands out as one of the best platformers of its time because it borrows from what came before it, mainly Mario and Sonic. It feels like a blend between Super Mario 64 and Sonic Adventure, two games that are iconic for their adaptations of their characters into the 3D world. It's fitting because how many games have been inspired from Pac-Man's original debut? The way Pac-Man controls is very derivative of Mario, while all of his abilities seem very Sonic-inspired. Whether it was intentional or not, Namco did a beautiful job making Pac-Man feel like he belongs in a 3D world, a feat that many games have failed to do. All of the elements that make Pac-Man Pac-Man are here. You eat pellets, you eat fruit, and above all else, you eat freaking ghosts. This time around, you get the added benefits of a pretty world, rewarding platforming, a silly story, and an amazing soundtrack. So what are you waiting for? If you haven't already, give it a try. The only thing left to do is sit back and let Pac. If you made it to the end of the video, you are a rock star. I wanted to make a video to shed some light on one of my favorite childhood games, and I'm glad that I got to share it with you. Thanks for taking time out of your day to check it out. While you're here, why don't you be a gangster like Pac-Man and gobble up that subscribe button? It helps me more than you know. Or you could gobble the close tab button. After that one, I wouldn't blame you. Just the time you took to check out the video is all I need, and I really do appreciate it. Whether you leave a comment, like, or subscribe, you don't have to do any of those things. But what you do have to do is have a nice day. Thanks again, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!
I like the little man. He's really neat. He eats up all the other things, you know.